And welcome to another episode of Emerald Isle Vacation Home Specialist. I am your host, Dennis Rechkovsky. Some of you recognize me as the co-owner of Flip Flops Donuts, and some of you know me as your broker of real estate, who specializes in waterfront and waterview properties along the Crystal Coast, especially on Bogue Banks and in my town of Emerald Isle, North Carolina. On this channel, you will find essential information from the inside scoops on buying and selling property to how to live with the ocean, rivers, and sounds that define the Crystal Coast. Today's episode is all about Knoll Shores, the youngest town on Bogue Banks. Whether you visit here occasionally or live here full-time, knowing the history, the value, and affordability of real estate in Knoll Shores is a story worth telling. Before I begin, please subscribe to my video channel now or at the end of this episode. The rich history of this beautiful coastal community goes at least as far back as the Florentine explorer Giovanni di Verrazzano, who, around 1524, explored much of the North Carolina coast in his expedition along America's seaboard. Knoll Shores is thought to be one of the first places he landed in the New World, and that location is marked with a historic marker along the main highway US 58. It will be another 450 years until the town of Knoll Shores was chartered by the State Assembly in 1973. In between these dates, many actions and events occurred. Prior to becoming a town, the land was under the stewardship of descendants of President Teddy Roosevelt. And before them, Alice Hoffman. And before her, John Royal, who we learned last week played an essential role in the development of Atlantic Beach. And before Royal, several others claimed the land. And in colonial times, the Lords Proprietors ruled, and before them, it was the land of Native Americans, primarily the Coree. All of these rulers and stewards had one thing in common. They left the land essentially untouched. That all changed in the 1950s, when two significant events occurred. In the first, the Roosevelt descendants donated property to the Episcopalian Diocese of East North Carolina Episcopal Church. This property, some 62 acres, became Trinity Center. In the second, a small subdivision of the western reaches of the land that would become Knoll Shores, adjacent to the community of Salter Path, was platted. It was called Hoffman Beach. The first lot in this subdivision was sold in 1951. Hoffman Beach remains an unincorporated entity apart from Salter Path and Knoll Shores to this day. Subsequently, a section of the eastern reaches of this property was developed. And it was on this map that the name Knoll Shores made its first appearance. The name was suggested by a new resident called Pete Rempe. Mr. Rempe demonstrated his enthusiasm for the new development by purchasing one of the first lots along Salter Path Road, put on the market by the Roosevelt heirs. By the late 1950s, lots were being sold on Cedar, Holly, Willow, Juniper, and Oak Leaf streets on the Sound side, and on Pinewood and Knollwood on the ocean side of Salter Path Road. Over time, this area would become referred to as Old PKS. Until the mid-1960s, a full development concept for the Roosevelt property had yet to be articulated and put down on paper. That changed when the Roosevelts hired the management consulting firm of Stone and Webster to provide direction and management. In turn, this firm employed A.C. Hall, the Raleigh city planner, who laid out the main section of central Knoll Shores. His fondness for trees was a driving force in his interest in Knoll Shores. The Halls loved the ocean, but when they went looking for beach property to buy, they quickly eliminated Nag's Head because it had no oceanfront lots with trees. Ditto with the Wilmington area beaches. Only when they drove west from Atlantic Beach on Salter Path Road did they encounter an expansive land totally wooded on both ocean and sound sides. To get to know the lay of the land, Hall put on boots and walked it many times. The land was swampy and had lots of low spots and lots of standing water. There were many snakes, too. Although water was never far from the surface, and he was unable to build a water treatment and sewer system, Hall was undeterred. He designed canals to drain the land and identified appropriate sites for homes where septic systems could work properly. Today, these homes along the canals have all the advantages of waterfront properties, and they are well protected from weather events like hurricanes and nor'easters, unlike the direct ocean and soundfront properties. Hall designed neighborhoods with lots of trees, and he did not want much thorough traffic. As a result, you better know where you're going when you drive into PKS. It's not easy to find a property if you don't know where it is, and that is by design. Thank goodness for GPS. The last development Hall participated in was the enormous Beacons Reach back in the 1980s. And so, in a slightly over 30-year span, Knoll Shores has evolved into a thriving and caring community. This is mainly due not only to wise planning and forethought, but also because of its willingness of its past and present citizenry to take active roles in government and development. The spirit of volunteerism that has molded this town will be a major factor in determining its future. Concerned citizens, a responsive government, and a strong sense of commitment on the part of those who will live here will combine to ensure this very special way of life in the years to come. To learn more about residential real estate opportunities in Knoll Shores, or to subscribe to my newsletter, call or text your email address to 919-308-2292. To learn more about real estate elsewhere along the Crystal Coast of North Carolina, sign up for my blog on my website, www.eihomesforsale.com. And subscribe to Emerald Isle Vacation Home Specialist on YouTube at the end of this video. Stay well and stay safe. So come on down. Please subscribe to my channel below. And definitely return next week to the same bat channel at the same bat time of 9 a.m. on Thursday for yet another episode of Emerald Isle Vacation Home Specialist.